Hello, everyone. This is Eric Simmons with Pillar to Post, and I'm happy to announce Garrett Simmons, my nephew, who just graduated in becoming a licensed inspector.
I am so happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're happy to be here.
Awesome.
And tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, so I am coming into the industry from the apartment industry, and I worked as a maintenance supervisor in the industry for about 10 years, my total career there. So mostly from a repair standpoint. And then let's see, personally, I play the guitar. I like to kayak. I have 2 kids, and I'm living life to its fullest. I'm trying anyway. And I love it out here in the Tri-Cities. We lived in the Portland metro area for 5 years before that. Before that, I went to college in Idaho. Pretty happy with where I'm at and what I'm doing now. So
Awesome. And so he actually graduated with 97 percentile. And he's probably tired of me bragging about him as I do the inspections. But I'm proud of this young man. He's actually has an old soul about him, very personable. And I just can't wait for all the realtors to get to know you as well as the clients.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet everybody.
So, but what he's going to do, he's going to ask me 3 questions, or maybe ask me a loaded question that I could best answer, not just for him, but also for the public.
Yeah, so today, earlier, Eric and I were talking, and we like to talk about, you guessed it, home inspection.
Yes.
And one of the things I asked him, I want to learn how to better serve our clients, and that's the name of the game. And so I said, Eric, what are the things that buyers want to know most? What are the questions that they ask you? Because I want to be ready to answer those questions when my time comes.
Most people who ask me, when they see me after I go over the spill of what I do for them, they ask me, so there's 3 major concerns I really have. One is, how long is the roof is going to last, as well as the insulation in the attic and the structure.
Big ticket items.
Yes, big ticket items. And this is going to be a short podcast, but each subject could be a very long subject matter. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hit the roof first. A lot of times people look at the roof and they say the roof looks great. If the house faces north and we look at the shingles, we know that the north side doesn't have a lot of sun exposure. So it actually looks like it's brand new. But on the south side, as well as the west side, where it has most of the sun exposure, it could be a different story altogether. So the best way to really examine a roof is getting on top of the roof. We can do a drone. We can get a ladder and lean our ladder on the roof edge, but walking the roof is really a critical part of the inspection because it's not just about the shingles, it's actually beyond the shingle. So as we walk on it, is it bubbling? Is it curling? Is it flaking? And all these types of things is wear and tear on the roof. And I look at a roof inspection as not a pass or fail, but a wearing process. How far along is this roof worn? And so let's answer one question. How long does a roof last? And the word it really is depends. It depends on the side of the house that it's where the sun shines. It depends on how it was installed. It depends on even the insulation and the ventilation inside the attic. So the wearing process really depends on a lot of factors. But the best way to inspect the roof is to walk on it.
Definitely. There's no substitute. Yeah.
There's no substitute.
So I have one question about that. So I know as home inspectors, it's not our job to say whether this roof needs to be replaced right now or not. We just, we call out the conditions of the roof, and then that's for someone else to decide.
That's really important to say, because when we look at a roof, what we're doing is we're taking a snapshot of time. And a roofer could take a look at it and say, well, it's about 3 to 5 years, and they'll warranty it. For us, when we see a heavy wear, we have to refer out to a roofer. And and let them use their professional opinion on it. But it also is about experience too. After being in the industry for almost 16 years, I come to a conclusion on a lot of different wear and tears. And that's where you're paying for experience and knowledge base that I have. But for the most part, to refer out to a roofer to do two things. One, to estimate the life and also the cost of replacement.
So say I have what you said. Say I have some like mega degranularization. That's a hard word to say. And maybe a few missing shingles on one side, but the other side looks great. So what kind of determination could I make as a buyer or as a homeowner? I mean, would you just not know whether you need to replace it until a roofer says so? Or?
No, if it has heavy granular loss with missing shingles, it's kind of hard to do a repair job on that, because when you're repairing the missing shingles or replacing that section of it, you're going to do more damage. And what extent can we go to? I mean, are we going to do a poor job of install and hopefully it doesn't leak? Those are the times when the roofer has to step up and tell the client it's time to replace. For us as inspectors, we can say that it's at the end of its life and further evaluation by a professional roofer. We can even say that it really is at the end of its life, and the roofer will probably say it's time to replace. We try to relate to the client that a roofer should look at it when it gets to that stage, for that factor that to give him a good estimate. We don't want to go up and say, oh, it's going to be $10,000, and then when they estimate it, it's $3,000. Or if we say it's $3,000, and they say, man, the pitch of this roof is going to be $12,000. No one wants to have that sticker shock. The seller doesn't want to have someone throwing up a balloon dollar amount, nor does the client want to say, man, it's only $1,000, and then you get that sticker shock that they gave you $1,000 from the seller, and it really cost you $12,000. Yeah. No one likes the mystery.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I bought my house, you did my inspection. This was before I was in the industry, obviously. It was a few years ago. And they had the people who bought it, remodeled it, and put a brand new roof on it. And you were getting your ladder out to go on the roof. And I said, oh, hey, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go up there because it's brand new. And I know it's brand new. It looks great. But you said, no, let me go up there because, and now I know why. Having been in the trade, now I know that nobody's perfect and roofers aren't perfect either. And sometimes there are some things that are installed improperly. So what are the things that you find most often that are improperly installed on new roofs?
On new roofs, it's kind of embarrassing to point out on roofers. Improperly flashing is number one. Number two, roof vents. Sometimes they cut corners in how they install the roof vents and crack the vents while they're installing it. Plumbing stacks not properly installed. And the plumbing stacks is what allows our waters to flush down the toilet as well as down drains and have everything flow correctly. So on roofing systems, it's all about the details. The drip edge, for example. We ran across a brand new home that the roofer didn't install a drip edge.
Oh, man.
The cost for that, to install that roof edge, it's not where you just slip that piece underneath the shingle. They have to actually lift up the shingles close to 3 feet from the edge and then reinstall it. You can put in there, that's, I think it's like $10 a stick.
Right.
And it costs, again, $3,000 to $4,000 worth of work. So the simple things, if we skip those simple things, it does have some cost to it. So it's not just one thing. There's a lot of things like exposed roofing nails, flashing, drip edges. There's also where I ran across today when I did a reinspection that the electrical stack that went up onto the roof and it goes to a power line. It used to have cables that connects to the roof because the stack is greater than 3 feet. And they never reattached it, which means that that electrical stack that's up in the air is now going to eventually bend and cause damage. And at that point, it's not the utility's problem, it's actually the homeowner's problem. So there's a lot of aspects that has to be addressed. And I just threw a lot of things out there about roofing systems, and we're supposed to go over 3 things.
It's all right. Well, you know, the more information, the better, especially when you're making an investment like this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at it as if it's raining and you have availability of an umbrella, you use it.
Mm-hmm.
But the roofing system is more than an umbrella. It protects all your assets inside. And if it doesn't protect it, it's going to damage it. Exactly. And that costs money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that wraps up the roof. The other one was structure.
Structure.
Right? And so
now,
what are some things that you find?
Well, there's a lot of different things, and that's a loaded question, because structure, people look at foundations, footers. There's also posts, beams, all in the crawl space. There's also looking at structure that has a basement area, and there's slab on grade. People ask me, so what is better, slab on grade or crawl space? I just told them, it really depends what you want. I like slab on grades because when I walk on it, there's no squeaks.
Right.
I can sneak out of the house anytime I want. Just kidding about that. Don't tell my wife. No.
You know, but I would not like slab on grades, because what if I want to move the toilet to the other side of the vanity?
It sucks to be you.
Right. I don't have that versatility. I can't change things around if I need to.
You're absolutely correct.
So,
and that's where slab on grade, it's one, when you set it, that's it.
That's it.
Unless you're going to do some major remodeling.
Unless you're handy with a jackhammer.
Yeah. And a wet saw.
Right. Oh, man.
But on the foundation, a lot of times people just want to know, does this crack on the foundation wall something that's structural, concerning, or not? But most people don't go into crawl space. Let's just face it. No. And that's where I call it job security, where people look at spiders and they don't want to look at spiders. To me, I like bugs.
Yeah, it was probably 10 or 20 inspections in, so I was brand new trying to learn the trade, and my head went right into a whole bunch of like little egg sacs. And most people don't know this, but you do. If you disturb those things at the right moment, you get 100,000 baby spiders.
Oh, yes.
Hatching out of those things. And so they were just pouring out all over my face. So sorry if you're sensitive and listening to this.
Yeah, that's fun. That's why I really do call it job security, because a lot of people will look at that and get up and run. Yeah. Or mice jumping.
Oh, man, no.
Oh, yeah.
That would get me.
That would get you?
Oh, yeah, that'd be my thing.
Yeah. I probably won't talk about the mouse house. But
oh, man.
Anyways, I think the most important, I think, is structure. I know it's structure. And to understand how a home sits down onto a foundation wall, a piers and posts and beams, and how it should look versus what you see, those are really what... this is the reason why people hire us. Mm-hmm. It's not about, does this color in this room look good? That's the designer.
Right.
For me, I look at homes as a Pandora's box, and as I go through it, I create a picture in my head. And at the end of the inspection, I present that picture in a way where people understand. And so on foundations, it's the combination of all cracks. It's looking at the posts. It's looking at when we walk inside the house, is there squeaking, and why is it squeaking? Are there 45-degree angle cracks? Do the windows and doors open and close, or do they bind? All these things are reflected to the foundation. And so it's a compiled of of a lot of things when you're looking at just the foundation. You can't just go into the crawl space and say, oh, it's bad.
Yeah.
You have to walk the house. You got to do your due diligence.
When the integrity of a structure is compromised, it'll show itself in
Secondary
numerous
effects,
ways. Yeah. So we'll see cracks at the top of door jambs.
We have to be careful when we see just a crack on that too, because if it's just a vertical crack going straight up, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a cosmetic crack in most general way it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's at the corners of the door and going 45-degree angle and there's movement, that's a whole different avenue where it's structure.
Yeah. Well, the training of home inspector training is really specific, and it's really cool. When you walk into a room as a regular person, you don't notice things that you would notice if you walked into a room as a home inspector. There was one room we walked into, and you said, okay, something's different about this room. It feels like slanted. The whole room. And I feel like my before I was a home inspector, would not have thought anything of that. I maybe would have noticed it if someone pointed it out. But now as a home inspector, I say, okay, let's take a look at the corners and edges and outside of this room. And sure enough, there was this giant willow right on the other side of that wall that was causing the foundation to be crooked, basically.
It's not pretty. To me, I look at that as we put our invisible CSI hat on and we're inspecting the room. And to me, I don't get excited over finding that type of defect. I feel kind of concerning.
Sure.
But to me, I love the CSI part where I'm creating a picture in my head. It's like a puzzle piece. And I just hit that one puzzle that makes sense to everything else. And that's what excites me, is getting a full understanding and knowing the cause and effects.
Yeah, finding some evidence and coming to a conclusion and presenting that conclusion to the interested party. Yeah. So.
And now the other item that we talked about was the attic. Mm-hmm. That's also structure too. And as we talked about earlier, the shingles and walking the roof is being important. While I'm walking the roof, I'm also paying attention to the sheathing. I'm thinking about what's underneath. I had one time, there was a client that even though I said, do not go on this roof because I don't have insurance for you, well, I got up on the roof and went on the back side of the house, and he got up on the roof and was over the garage. And while he was over the garage, he was yelling towards me. He said, hey, Eric, this feels really soft. And he was jumping on top of the roof. And I knew that it was soft. In fact, when I walked on it, I kind of got nervous. And I asked the gentleman, I said, hey, you need to get off there. He said, well, what's wrong with this? Why is it this bouncy and this soft? And I said, because you have your floor or your ceiling, your truss is cracked there. And I don't know the extent of the damage. Mm-hmm. And he goes, are you serious? I go, yeah, get off there, please.
Yeah. And
sure enough, there was 2 trusses in a row that was broken. Oh, and he was jumping on that.
He could have fell through.
Oh, man. And so the reason why we walk the roof is not just about is the shingles are okay. We're required to traverse the roof because there's going to be secondary events that we need to pay attention to when we go inside the attic. We have to pay attention to the soffit vents. How is it ventilated? Is there mold growth? Is there enough insulation? What kind of insulation? Do the bathroom exhaust vents as well as the hood vents or microwave vents vent into the attic? All these different things needs to be addressed. If not, there are going to be major issues. That's going to be very costly. Mm-hmm. As an inspector, I look at the attic as part of the process to understanding the health of the home and to protect, again, my client.
Yeah, and there's a lot of problems that happen up there that people can't see. A lot of times we run into moisture from the bathrooms venting into the attic space. And almost all the time when that happens, you start to see some microbial growth on the shingle.
Absolutely.
Not shingles, the sheathing.
The sheathing, yeah. Mm-hmm. That was one of the houses that we inspected together, that the soffit vents were just, it was insulation blocking the vent itself. And I had him go inside the attic, and you can see the moisture that dripped through the roof, through the actual roofing nails, and you can see the water stains on the insulation. Do you remember that house?
Yes, yeah.
And it's kind of I wanted you to see that so you can see how important it is for ventilation. And there's also mold growth, and because of the lack of ventilation, the sheathing on the roof, that it actually damaged. It became very soft.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I want to talk about. One of my clients bought a brand new house, and on this brand new house, it's like 2,100 square feet, a little bit, maybe around 2,100 square feet, and it was a 3-ton unit outside. And she says it's just not keeping the house cool. And after I did further research, I realized that the ventilation had a ridge vents. It wasn't doing it properly. And so the best thing for it was to put a mechanical fan inside the attic. And guess what?
Cooled down quite a bit.
It cooled off the house because the attic was blooming hot. It was 160 degrees.
Right, and you got that hanging all over on top of the house.
On top of the house.
Yeah.
And so the air conditioning unit was struggling.
Yeah.
Because the attic was staying hot, which also heated up the inside or the top portion of the house. And so there's a lot of things that we had to put that invisible CSI hat and try to investigate and how to best serve our clients. So it's not just about, does the receptacle work? Does the light turn on? It's something beyond that. And a good inspector should look at the structures, like the 3 things what my clients always ask me. I just worry about the roof, the attic, and the crawl space, or the structure. And so...
Well, anyway, yeah, there you have it. So where is this podcast going to be available, Eric?
I'm going to put it onto my Facebook.
Okay. So if you have any questions about any of the components that we talked about today or anything else relating to home inspection, go ahead and throw that in the comments. And yeah, we'll get back to you.
All right. Well, you have a fantastic day, and we look forward to talk about other subjects.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.